move into the Urban Renewal Agency meeting.
Good evening, Canby. I'll call back into session the Canby Urban Renewal Agency special meeting of August 20th, 2014. We convened earlier in the evening for an executive session concerning real property, and now we are back in session to continue with our agenda, beginning with the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda, which includes the approval of minutes of the July 19th, 2014 Urban Renewal Agency special meeting.
Second.
It has been moved by Vice Chair Hodson and seconded by Commissioner Hensley. The approval of the consent agenda, which includes the approval of the minutes of the July 9th, 2014 URA special meeting. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next on our agenda, we have number 4, citizen input and community announcements. We'll do that in reverse. Kim or Amanda, do we have any community announcements for tonight? Seeing none. And now, any citizen input tonight? Anybody want to come forward and address the agency? All right, seeing none. We'll move on to number 5, resolutions and ordinances. Kim?
First item you have is Resolution URA 14-006. This is approving a minor amendment to the Canby Urban Renewal Plan to identify additional properties to be acquired and approving a purchase and sale agreement between the Canby Urban Renewal Agency and Cutsforth Properties, LLC, to purchase property for the new Civic Center project.
All right, it's our pleasure tonight to deal with this matter. It has been a long and interesting path to get to this evening, and we'll turn it over to Amanda to brief us on this.
Sure. The agency and property owners have been working to negotiate a deal for the property on 2nd Avenue for the building of a new civic building and came to an agreement, and before you is the purchase and sale agreement.
Very good. Does anyone on the agency have any further questions of Amanda for the evening?
No, I think
already covered.
Yeah, I think we've been going over this in some detail in our executive sessions where we have the legal authority to review property transactions, so I think we're all pretty well briefed on this.
Okay, very good. And for the audience at home, approval of this resolution in effect has the Canby Urban Renewal Agency making an offer to purchase the property from Cutsforth Properties, LLC, and we'll proceed ahead with acquiring the land. Anyone have any comments in the audience tonight on that?
Yes, Mr. Dale, I'm not sure. I have comments from the library board, and I don't know if it's appropriate now or to wait for the next item on the update. It has to deal with the concern on some purchase of the property, but I want to get the appropriate time.
Well, before we have the vote, let's go ahead and talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, please come forward.
Roger Wright, 273 North Grand Street, Canby. First of all, as a way of disclosure, I talked with Mayor Hodson and Councilor Coleman before that I had represented the Cutsforth family, and then I sent an email to our city attorney before telling us a few months ago. So I have been involved on the periphery approving of documents. I did not participate in the negotiation of numbers, but I just wanted people to know that, so if there's any questions. I'm actually here to speak as the chairperson of the library board. And I'd like to start off by saying I'm only going to take a few minutes, and I hope when I get up you can say that I was complimentary, wanting to do that, and it's not adversarial, because that is my intent. But I wanted to raise some concerns that the library board had and wanted to put it on the record. And the reason is because in our code section 2.20.060, it says we are to be advisors to the council. I realize this is the URA, but it kind of gets a little messed up here. And when I look at that, it says we're supposed to keep you, and I don't think we've done this on the record on this purchase thing, but it says that we are to keep you informed about the current trends in the library services. B, study library growth and needs in the city. C, develop long-range plans for the library service and facilities, and then it says, consistent with city priorities, state, regional, and national goals pertaining to libraries. And then it says, D, recommending types of library service for the city and its vicinity. So, we've been involved. Let me tell you, we're overjoyed with what you're doing. But we have a concern that we'd like to raise. We see that the mission statement of the city says, the city's mission is to maintain and improve the quality of life and environment for all within the city. And it has 4 bullets, I'll read you 2. Number 1 says to facilitate the provision of needed services and infrastructure. And then the one that I really wonder about, it says the 4th one, nurture a sense of community, and then the key words to me, and responsibility between generations. Responsibility between generations. And that causes our concern. We like what you're doing, but you know, we don't think you're going quite far enough. We think there should be more land purchased. We really do. We've seen, and I know it's not a plan, it's, you know, just a schematic, that there's 21,000 or 42,000 square, I forgot the number, 21,000, I had it, and for the library. And that sounds pretty good. The national standard that we've been looking for in the state is 25,000. And we know this is not a perfect world. We know sometimes there's got to be compromises and things, but our concern is we don't want to see the city get boxed in, so we feel that we need to make a recommendation. There is another lot right next door of approximately 6,000 feet that can be purchased. And we would like for the council to consider that now or in the immediate future, because that part is going to be developed. And if the city doesn't get its hands on it, it's going to be gone. And we, as the library board, feels that we're missing something here, and we need to think outside the box. Now, I know where the council is. Believe me, I do. I mean, I've been there, done that, and I know that there's things such as PERS, there's been layoffs, necessary services such as police and fire. I know there's a huge competition. I mean, I realize that. The board realizes that. But our concern is that we're missing something here, and we got to get on that pendulum and think and get off and consider a little bit more. And to show you what we're thinking is that, you know, I think square footage is maybe even more important than the division and how it looks inside and whatever. I mean, we want to say, okay, this library needs to last for a minimum of 20 years. I think it's got to go longer than that, but I mean 20 years. And we look around and we go to Sherwood, which is a nice one, and you know, we go in there and it's a nice building, it's a nice facility, but you know, we go in there and we ask the people, well, what do you think? It's too small, it's too small, it's too small. And that's the concern. And we're looking here, and we know the subdivisions that are being improved, there's been some studies that say, and I forgot the name of it, maybe if I fell on but 95% of the public, well-known, says a library is important to the city. What we'd like to see, we know you can't build it all, but we'd like to see you tie up the land. We don't care if you build the building and you kind of keep it chopped off at one end and you build it with the idea, we're going to build this thing so it can be expanded someday. Put a patio out there that would be so welcome, because the library or this community center is just more than a shelf of books. And we just really concerned about that. I don't like to go into old history, but I can just think of 3 things when in the 80s and 90s I was active on the school board. And if those decisions weren't made, we'd be in big trouble today. And they were popular, and they weren't popular. And I can tell you that I had a kind of a similar situation as you people, and my guts just churned, getting up there, you know, knowing the money, what we had to do, what we had to face, all of these things. And I'll give you these example. Number 1, where the Richard Brown auditorium, we had to buy, and my memory's right, about 15 to 20, 5,000 6-foot parcels. We picked them off one by one. Richard Brown had the foresight to do this, and we just did it because of the vision and the plan and the feeling of the growth. Now, that's where the school is expanded, and that's where the auditorium is now. And if we wouldn't have stopped and competed with the Burgervilles of the world buying this stuff, that wouldn't be there today. Very, very important. And it was something that we bought in the 80s and 90s to protect ourselves. A second one is, this might not seem like a big sexy one, but you go behind the schools, you go Bird Parkway. The city, the Cahoots, and the school district had to cooperate to exchange land to get more. That's where you see these softball fields and things right now. We had to get more land and we had to preserve it. The third one, and I just drove out there this weekend, I happened to be by, was I was involved in the purchase of the ground for the Baker Prairie School. And that was too much land, and Deborah Sommer, the example of the school board, said, we got to purchase this stuff. I mean, it's more than we need, but we got to protect ourselves. Well, sooner or later, Baker Prairie School came out. I went by there this weekend. I'm telling you, I saw hundreds, not tens or whatever, hundreds of kids and cars out there. They had a soccer tournament, and I just pulled off to the road, and I looked at it, and I said, I couldn't find a place to park. And I thought, where would these kids be if these people several years ago didn't plan for this? And so my message is, please don't think of this building entirely as a place that we're going to shelf books. Through the efforts of Melissa, our things, we came up with a non-Webster definition of what the old library is, and I'd like to read it to you. The quote library is a community space for assessing, sharing, and creating information. It's a center for learning new technology, skills, and participating in cultural and artistic programs. Now, I'm not going to spend your time telling you all the things we do there. We're doing that. We're trying to do it. And believe me, what we're trying to do tonight is that will improve. But I'm saying I really think we need to safeguard ourselves. Let's don't get boxed in by the development and then there's no place to go. I really, really believe in the board believes this too, is it's vital. One final thing, I really understand where you are. I know that there's things, but I'm going to ask that you try and figure out, now how can we be creative? We're not asking you to say, you run out and you buy the 6,000, you develop it. We know that there has to be concessions, but at least we've preserved that right, and we can do that. And then when you design the building, if it's not, we can work out that in so we have it designed so that if it's an add-on at some day, we can do it. We don't have to look in condemnation. We don't have to look at new sites, because I really believe it's coming. I really do, and I'd ask for you to, on that pendulum as you go back there, maybe it swings out, get a little bit out there and jump out and take a step. And that's mine. I'm really supportive. I hope you don't think of myself as an adversary here. If you don't, I'm just explaining the views that I've made a success of what I'm trying to do tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roger.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, Roger.
Go ahead, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Roger, and I agree with a lot of what you have to say here. I find myself in a difficult situation. You as an attorney understand that ORS 192 puts me into a position where I cannot say some of the things that I know because they were discussions that took place at an executive session to discuss the purchase of property.
And you know I wasn't there.
And you weren't there. And I don't think, as a person responsible for the fiduciary issues of this city and the urban renewal district, that a open forum is a particularly good place to tilt your hand as to what you might buy and when you might buy it. So this really, I don't think, is an appropriate venue for us to say what type of property we would want and where we would want it. That would be more appropriate, I believe, in an executive session. Thirdly, I think we can get to where you want to get by approving this resolution tonight. That here is the history as I understand it. It may be under dispute, but here's the history as I understand it. That when discussions first took place between the city and the owner, that property was not in play, that property was not available for purchase. And so the city began a plan to put together a footprint for a library with what we believed at the time the property was available. It takes a while to put together negotiations and a contract, and that's what we have today. And I think one of the practical things that I'd be facing as a councilor or as an urban renewal agency commissioner tonight is that I would have to put on hold this contract, execution of this contract, and basically start again with some new.
Did you misunderstand me? I'm not saying that at all.
I understand that, but that could be one of the effects of going in, of reopening property negotiations. So I hear what you say, I agree with what you say. I think it is not necessarily germane to this motion, that by us approving the purchase of these properties that are on deck tonight does not preclude a discussion of what you're talking about.
Then that was my intent. I hope, and maybe I didn't express it clearly, we support the passage of this tonight.
Yes.
We would like to see you consider further negotiations.
You bet. And it was just the awkwardness of having this testimony when we're considering a contract on this piece of property right here. We don't have a venue to talk about what you were talking about. But I'm just saying that I don't want to wait any longer on getting started with this library. I'd like to purchase the property for which we have language in front of us. And if it would make sense for the city to purchase additional property at a certain price, that's probably something that we should talk about in an executive session to figure out an appropriate strategy for that. But in terms of having a bigger footprint, you bet. I think that's a great idea. But I think where we got here right now was due to a series of events, one of which was that piece of property that you were talking about, to the belief of several of us, wasn't in play and wasn't available at that time, and it came into play at a later point in this discussion, at which point we already had a contract ready to go. So I think I am willing to have a discussion on additional property, but right now I'm ready to proceed and buy the property that's in front of us.
I would hope so. We hope so.
I'll just second a lot of what Councilor Parker said, and I want to thank you, Roger, for your presentation and your conversation with us. I think that's all we've ever wanted, was just to be able to have good, solid conversation and not have it be an adversarial exchange. I think to what Councilor Parker said, and as you're echoing as well, is I don't think we want to hold this up any more than we have to or that we want to. And yeah, I think that there's lots of conversation still to go on what downtown will or may look like in coming years, and how do we do that. So I don't think it's a closed door topic of conversation, but I appreciate that you've brought that forward as a on the record recommendation from the library board, and I appreciate that tremendously, so thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Roger, very much.
Thank you very much.
Any other citizen input on this topic? Move on. All righty. All righty, agency, ready for a motion?
I will gladly make that motion, sir. I move to approve resolution number URR 14-006, a resolution approving a minor amendment to the Canby Urban renewal plan to identify additional properties to be acquired and approving a purchase and sale agreement between the Canby Urban Renewal Agency and Cutsforth Properties LLC to purchase property for the new Civic Center project.
Second. I'll let Clint have it.
All righty. It's been moved by Vice Chair Hodson and seconded by Commissioner Coleman for approval of resolution number URR 14-006, a resolution approving a minor amendment to the Canby Urban Renewal Plan to identify additional properties to be acquired, and approving a purchase and sale agreement between the Canby Urban Renewal Agency and Cutsforth Properties LLC to purchase property for the new Civic Center project. Any further discussion by the agency? Ready for the vote? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And it carries unanimously.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I'm wondering if one of us has a better explanation for the TV audience, at least, of what properties we are talking about. Is there a simple way of saying the location of it?
I can
Across the street and
try.
down from the movie theater? Is there a better way of saying it?
Yeah, there's a lot just west of the movie theater, between Juniper and the theater. That's one lot. It includes vacating Juniper Street and the lot immediately west of Juniper Street.
The corner house.
Yep, the first house.
Terrific, thank you.
So if you picture the empty lot by the theater, the street, and then the next lot over, that's the footprint we're
Right.
talking about tonight.
And as part of the agreement, those houses, which I believe are all empty right now, have already been vacated, will be demolished, and the 3 lots west of the property that we're purchasing will be used for staging during the construction.
Very good. Thank you.
And if I could add one more thing to that, the additional property that you're talking about is the second house.
It's the vacant lot between the two.
There's a house on the corner, a vacant lot, and another house, and it's the vacant lot, the additional lot there.
Right.
It's the
All right. My thanks to the agency, and especially to the library board, Friends of the Library, and the Cutsforce, for a great evening. Quite an accomplishment here for Canby tonight. Thank
Well,
you very much.
And Mr. Chair, also, given the, what has been on the plate of our administrator and our attorney, I appreciate this. We have had quite an agenda the last couple months, and Amanda, thank you.
Thank you, Amanda.
This was hard work to do, and it was done well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, moving on to new business. A, update on Civic Center project. Back to Amanda.
All right. Well, it's a lot easier now that we have some property purchase. So the process right now, now that we have an agreement on property, we can move forward with getting the people on board that we need to do the project, starting with the construction management firm. So there's a lot of things we can do simultaneously over the next 90 days, one of which will be putting out an RFP for a construction manager or project manager. I've got a RFP drafted and ready for the attorneys to review, so hopefully we can get that out in the next couple weeks.
For the audience, RFP,
Request for proposal, sorry.
Thank you.
So we would get somebody on board that would coordinate the architects, engineers, and the construction firm, and be the owner's rep. There's a process. We are vacating the street as part of the process, so that we'll get that going, get the wheels going on that. That's about a 2.5-month process. That also includes relocation of some of the utilities, so the utilities will have to be relocated. We have to give 90 days for our franchise agreements, so we'll be getting that done fairly quickly. And then, as we talked about earlier, the demolition of the houses and preparing the site. All will be happening in the next 90 days. And hopefully, then we can go forward and get an architect and engineer on late fall, early winter, so that they have the winter to start design process and public meetings, and have something ready this winter.
Very good.
Very good.
Great. Thank you, Amanda.
Thanks.
So stay tuned, Canby, for invitations to the public meetings for design and comment. It'll be interesting, it'll be fun. Thank you so much, Amanda, for putting that together. Next on our agenda, we have Economic Development Update. Agency, you have the written report from Renata already in your packets. Jamie, were you going to
We just
speak
have,
to that as well?
Renata asked that I pass out her newest off-the-press newsletter for a sneak peek for you.
Oh, very good.
And then attached on the back is the Kiss Summer Goodbye flyer, in case you are interested in having a big version.
Jamie, did you want to speak to any Main Street update matters?
It's all in the,
It is in our packet.
Well, yes, but both myself and Councilor Parker failed to mention First Friday, so if you could maybe for the cameras, invite everybody to First Friday and tell everybody what to expect, that would be fantastic.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
The businesses are working really hard on getting together what their event or fun activity will be for First Friday. But one new addition with this coming September 5th, First Friday, occurs from 5 to 8 p.m. We are going to have, which I have some people here at your next agenda item, to talk about some art and culture on your First Avenue. And so I won't ruin the surprise so that Laura and Greg can update you. But we're going to have some music and have some fun in addition to the businesses. And I just think that if you haven't been out to First Friday for a while, our businesses are they're really upping their game, and they're really making some fun musical acts come down and fun food and specials. So 5 to 8, if you're looking for more information, Candy Main Street on Facebook.
Very good.
Thanks, Jamie.
Well, with that, let's segue right into the Arts and Culture Advisory Council of Canby presentation.
Just, Mr. Chair, while they're getting situated, Jamie, I wanted to commend you and say thank you for proactively promoting the Kiss Summer Goodbye kickoff, end of summer party dance. I appreciate that tremendously. There's been a lot of posters put up already and a lot of conversation occurring already, so thank you for the early promotion of the event.
Thank you so much. We're really super excited about it, and I think it was after my first year here that we talked about that you just get better and better as more time that goes on. So the first year, planning went well, and we had a really fun event, but having a second year and really knowing what we wanted to do differently and what we wanted to do and keep the same and how we wanted to expand the event, it's going to be so much fun, and it's free, and it's family-friendly, so you can't get any better than that, in my opinion. I'm going to pass it over to Laura Sattler, who is the chair, and Greg Forbes, who is on the Arts and Culture Advisory Council of Canby.
Welcome back.
Hello, Mayor and chairpersons of the council and staff. We are excited about the Arts and Culture Advisory Council. We have 8 members who were recruited through the news articles in the paper, and our first meeting was on January 22nd. We have on our committee an artist, a playwright, a musician, a multimedia specialist, just a minute here, a business owner, a vice president of a major corporation who is retired, and a designer and a manager. We have as our first priority formulate our vision statement, which is to promote and develop, just a minute, promote and develop creative diversity in our community. And that's what we're doing with our thought process. That was our first real work session, along with our 4-step mission, which is encouraging artistic and cultural awareness, developing new projects, preserving the past, and emphasizing our creative diversity. It took some time to do that. We had charts and we were going all through it. Our first project of interest was public art. And with the availability of the renewal funds, urban renewal funds, thank you very much, Our committee came together with their different ideas and experiences, and through meetings of discussion and selection, we chose 2 metal sculptors from several applications. Our objective, I had to do this, I write better than
You're doing great.
our objective was to get artist interpretation of the garden spot using historical and present images. And we looked at this quite carefully. We chose Jesse Rickard's creation of a bird and a circle representing the sun. And that was his interpretation. The other 2 sculptors, Susan Schimmel and Finning.
Schimel finding?
Okay, Schimmel Finning is repurposing farm equipment and train relics. Installation is scheduled for September 3rd, and the city, what's the department?
Jerry Nelsing, Public Works.
Right, Public Works will be installing these 2. They're quite tall. We have the plinths designated on First Avenue. They will be, the heights are visible from 99E, and one will be placed on the middle of that block, and the next one on Grant. So, it is with great pride and enthusiasm that we give tribute of diversification in our city. Would you please join us September 5th at 6 o'clock for the unveiling? This will be there will be introduction of the artists and music to enjoy for the entire community. So please come. And Mayor, may I ask you,
Yes.
did someone with multimedia talents ask you to do our unveiling and introduction? She was to get back to me, and I don't know, I haven't heard from her.
We have been a little on the crazy side at the Hudson Homestead, but I would be glad to do that. So I will follow up with your multimedia person and let her know that we have talked when I get home this evening. So yes, I would love to, thank you.
Make it morning.
She's up late, so yes, so it'll probably be conversation this evening, so absolutely, I'd love that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
And
well,
before we close, are there any questions?
Laura, tell me again about the media, that these are metal objects that are being
They're
created?
metal sculptures.
Okay. What I always found interesting was that even though the Greek civilization is older than Rome, all we know about Greece is what has been written. And Rome, we still have relics made out of rock and stone and metal, and that it is likely that what your installation you are putting up will be some of the most enduring pieces of Canby's history. So it is not just of the moment, but this may be something that is going to be viewed longer than most anything here on the streets of Canby. So thank you for your eternal gift.
Thank you for that compliment. May I introduce Greg Forbes? He is our playwright, and there were a group of us who attended his play at Lakewood in Lake Oswego. He's a fine playwright and director.
Thank you, Mayor and council members, for having us here. And thank you for your kind comments, Councilor Parker. I honestly think the 2 sculptures that are going in are truly works of art. And I think there's something that Canby citizens are going to be very proud of as the years unfold. something that, and our thrust as we looked at the various artists who submitted their proposals were artworks that would really speak to the culture and the feel of Canby. Like we're based on great railroads, or based on agriculture, we're graced to the wonderful, beautiful area we live in. And we really looked for artwork that really spoke to that and spoke to Canby, and something that would speak to the citizens. So I hope everyone here is very proud of what's going in.
And I might add, they are going to be planted on solid concrete plants.
Yeah, my only comment, I want to thank you for coming in and giving us a presentation when you're, what did you give?
Multimedia person.
Thank you. When the multimedia person came home and...
Specialist.
Specialist.
Sorry,
thank you.
multimedia specialist.
You're struggling with this.
I am, because that's just not how I refer to her. So she had brought home that you guys had decided on what you were looking to install and wanted to do, and I cautioned her that myself, I'll speak for me, would love to have some information on, or, even a preview of what was going to be installed. Generally, as mayor, I prefer not to be surprised and caught off guard, and so I appreciate you coming in advance and letting us know what you guys have been working on and whatnot, so thank you for coming and doing that, so
It
thanks.
doesn't look like a solar panel, does it?
We'll incorporate one.
I think we have a
We
few
could
more
light
around.
it.
In some cities, and I'm sure that won't happen here, but in some cities, and in fact the city where our new administrator is coming from, public art turned into lively discussion. So I'll tell you after the meeting about it.
Okay.
Hence the surprise
Yeah,
factor.
because-
It's the surprise factor.
As long as people are engaged, that's really all we want.
People were engaged.
People were engaged in that story.
Well, and we have an example. I mean, look what we did with, you look at the bike rack situation that was done a couple years ago, and that created a tremendous amount of conversation and still does to this day, but it was a project that was still very tastefully done and I think appropriate for our community. And so I think I'm anxious and looking forward to seeing what you guys install.
One more word. Art is for the person who can create in their own mind, so you can't please everyone.
Cannot.
So art is a piece of work.
I was wondering, for transparency's sake, do you have any idea what kind of metal that they are going to
Stainless
use?
steel.
Stainless steel on both?
No, one is...
No.
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
One is stainless, and then the other one is repurposed, like tractor equipment and train ties and things of that nature. So it's going to have a rustic look. They're very different, and the thing that, to speak, I guess, for the group, but from the conversations that happened when we were picking the art, is that we got several submissions and we picked two artists that were very different, and that was really important. Jesse, who has the stainless steel piece, he is an artist by trade. That is his work. Susan, who has the one who really wanted to use the railroad equipment and the farm equipment, it was her first public project. It just so happened that we liked it, but she was so thrilled that she could create something and come up with something, and she gave us a 2-scale rendering, which helped to aid a little bit. So they'll be very different, but they're both very true to Canby, and I think that the whole committee put a lot of thought and time into choosing things that would be true, and kind of back to the bike racks, or it sparks conversation. But if you didn't know anything about Canby and you arrived in our downtown today, and then hopefully after September 5th or September 3rd when they're installed, that you'll at least see that there are people here that care and they're interested in doing something. You might not like it, that's up to you then.
But there are two.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
some may like one, some may not
Exactly.
like the other.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Laura and Greg, thank you. Thank you, Jamie. Next on the agenda, we have historic facade renderings presentation. And I see Jamie warming up the projector.
Get rid of me that quickly.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm Jamie Stigall. I'm the Main Street Manager for the City of Canby. And just like with the arts and culture, I wear lots of different hats as staff member for the city. One of those is being the staff person for the Historic Review Board. The Historic Review Board came out of a need for the city to have a board so that we could apply for a certified local government grant through the State Historic Preservation Office. One of the parts of that grant was to put out a bid and work with a company to get facade design renderings that incorporated historic nature. Before I start this PowerPoint, I want to let you know that there's a lot of text in here. I promise not to read it all. It's just good information, and I didn't want to lose anything of the thought process that went into it, but you're going to roll your eyes a little bit. So the report and facade renderings were developed by Stacy Henderson, FFA Architectures for the City of Canby. We're trying to use these to help business and building owners understand the potential of their building and integrate the historical integrity that is either lost or covered or even unknown. So it includes from the era, colors, features, things, and the current business needs of the building owners and business owners. So Stacy came out and she met with myself and Renata, and we did a walk around town and decided which buildings would benefit the most based on people or property owners that were proactive and interested in finding ways to get them a little bit more involved. She then met with the business owners and researched photographs and information from the Historical Society, and so the designs were based off of that research that she came up with. The report includes the final facade renderings for each building and a narrative which I have tried to really pare down, but I was not as successful as I would have liked to. So the first one is the appliance store and liquor store. It was built in 1955. This is a photo of how it stands today. The brick is characteristic of the 50s era, and right now it is in good condition but needs to be cleaned. And to make sure that there's no water damage in the future, she suggests cleaning and adding some metal flashing to the top. The storefront is filled with concrete masonry units. So her suggestion is that we have them remove the blocks, restoring the original storefront, and it would bring some warmth to the building. But that if they should want to keep that changing the material to a neutrally colored wood or stucco would help to give the building a warm, welcoming look. The rendering, which you will see in a second, with the applied color, new doors, custom wood element helps to give the facade a unified appearance, and the doors are to make it a little bit more attractive and really show that there are two tenants in that building. The signage is very simple and very self-explanatory. So here is the facade rendering that she had suggested. It really opens up that building. Again, it shows that there are two separate businesses there. You can see what she did with the business names on the top. So then we move to Canby Rental and Equipment, which was built in 1908. This is how it looked in 1908 when it was built. Cool. So to restore the historic nature, she suggests the metal siding come down and that wood shiplap siding be installed. I'm not exactly sure what shiplap is, but I'm very excited to find out. She's also suggested adding decorative cornice detail so that it restores the overall character of the building and just retains some of that historical nature. The storefront currently is settled into the building, so there would need to be some structural work done, but she suggests putting large storefront windows to be installed to be compatible with the reconstructed second story, and that the garage door would be moved back to the center as an entrance point, maybe a way to air the building out, but then also where it was historically located. The signage, the words could be used, but that really make it to help the exterior, that they could be painted on the side like they were in the historic photograph. And so here's their suggestion for Canby Rental. And you can't see it very well, but there is siding all along the top, and it's just really open, and the blocks on either side are for potential signage in the future because they have people that they need to have signage with. So we moved to the Mattress World Northwest, built in 1930, and they did some painting and some trim work recently, and it really did help to update the front of that building. This is how it looked previously. So the design, it would be the awning, transom windows, and exterior masonry would be restored back to their original configuration, and the entrances would all remain intact, would be flexible for what they wanted to do on the inside of that building. The awning would be removed so that you can see the windows that are there, and then that would be reconstructed to look like the historic photograph, and that would be able to reintegrate the transom windows and show the more decorative masonry. The masonry is in good condition and adds character, so it's important to check for water damage and to take some steps to make sure that there's preventing water damage in the future. And as far as signage is, a corner sign, which we would call a blade sign, suggests to be hung under the new awning, and then another one at the other end of the building. She even suggests that it could match the brackets on the Grand Building, which is another one of the properties that we looked at, and that maybe if the Mattress World sign needed to stay, that it could be a little bit smaller and be above the transom windows. So here's the look for, and the transom windows are those small windows above the awning if you're not familiar. So moving on to the Bettis building, which was 1960. Currently, the vertical paneling should be replaced with more durable, unpainted wood paneling. She says that a neutral look will brighten it up and reintegrate the style that surrounded the Pacific Northwest context. The variation between the light wood and the darker metal will really modernize the look. As far as the entrance, she offered a couple suggestions, but the one that she went with the final rendering was to just keep the entrance the way that it was, but add an accent color so that pedestrians coming from any angle would know exactly where the entrance to the building would be. The awnings are important because of the sun exposure, and so keep the 50s era style, but then do a very simple design that would help create shade and also complement the look of the building. And then there are the concrete masonry unit blocks, CMU. They were added for character, and so it basically is a way to keep them a little bit clean. It adds some character to the building, clean and taken care of so that they look fresh, even if they are a little older. So this is her image for what the Bettis building could look like. Then the Grand Building, built in 1912. This is the historic photo. So again, it has those transom windows, and the corner of the building where you would enter into, especially for you, at one point was extended out. It came under a fire, and that's when they made those changes. So the building owner was really interested in organizing the facade so that it looked a little bit more structured and a little bit more clean. And after studying the photographs, it really became clear that we need to reconstruct the original bays of the window, and she believes that would help make a uniformity to the building and then also make it kind of clean and clear and nice. As far as signage goes, she would introduce a system for how signage is displayed. A bracket at the entrance of each of the first floor tenant and blade sign on the corner of the second floor tenants would accomplish and bring regularity by using the same bracket piece and custom designs. So the bracket, which actually holds the sign up, would all be the same in uniform, but then the signs for the businesses underneath would be true to whatever their business would be. The first and the second floor windows should be replaced with new wood framed, and then there are several options for that, and that it would help to be with what the use of the building should be. Currently, they aren't exactly the compatible material, I suppose. And then for paint, she suggested just using something that would emphasize the organization of the facade and make the bays pop because of the increased contrast, and make sure that it's compatible and complementary with, she calls it the brewery, but with the backstop bar and grill, and the muted tones of the 1920s. So in this, she's restored that corner, added some signage to the entryways, fixed the windows, and just added a couple little artistic details, but I think it looks quite nice. And those are the buildings that we chose. I tried to go as fast as possible. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me, and we will make sure that the entire report is available to you. It was just available to me yesterday.
Jamie, I do have one question.
Yes.
First comment. Excellent renderings. Back to your earlier presentation, my wife, who sits on that committee, and I were having a very lengthy and heated conversation about the design of downtown and where is it going, what are we doing, what's the standard. And this, I think, captures, I appreciate you putting the dates on the building. What, the appliance store, what was the year on that one?
50?
50,
It was
Yeah,
It's the
19
rental building, I missed the date on.
Canby Rentals was 1908.
08, thank you.
And then where Mattress World is now?
30.
1930. I think when you look at Canby and you kind of think about what it was, where is it going, I think a lot of those pieces that are captured there really are timeless in what they can do for our downtown, if that can be captured and done. Mike, so my question comes from, when we look at something like this and our design standards that we have in place, we're starting, for example, Countryside Living, KB Herald, how does that mesh? What changes are we talking about to that aspect of what we have to make something like this become a reality? Or do we want to, and that's a conversation maybe for another time amongst this body and with you and staff, is that the look we want to go for, and therefore changing what now becomes new build-outs? You know what hopefully I'm not articulating that well.
For example, Sandy, Oregon has design standards that require all of their buildings to look a certain way with like I guess the hokey term to use would be like a ski chalet kind of look.
Sure.
Even down to the 7-Eleven. And so, if I'm gathering what you're saying, you're wondering, should we be having some stricter regulations that put it one way or the other? It doesn't have to be historical, it doesn't have to necessarily be new. It could be all pink and purple, and some people might like that.
Well, and that's maybe the that continuity of what's the character of the look.
Right.
Yeah, I don't want Leavenworth. I don't want, that works for Leavenworth. I mean, it's I like that, but I don't want to necessarily, for me, pigeonhole us into one, looking like a certain look. But,
Right.
I mean, you look at what's done here, 50s, 60s, but again, even taking the 1908 and 1912 of, the Graham Building and being able to capture that, and it still looks like it fits. It doesn't stand out
Right.
as a sore thumb. I don't. Sisters, they're the country western theme, and it's great. It works for Sisters. I don't see that here, and I don't. My wife would disagree with it. We should put it in here's the box. You're building a building. Here you go. You property owner. Great, love your building, here's the deal. You need to get compliant with what we've got. So that's a policy conversation up here, but and that's maybe where I'm heading with this, is how does this fit in with our current policy and design standards? And then if we want to go that direction or start to allow those things to be implemented, what's the next dominoes to make these kinds of things happen?
Let me try that. I think that might not be fair for the Main Street manager to
Sure.
have to address policy questions like that. I think we're getting started. When we started the facade program, we limited the number of people who we would contract with to do the designs to a few people. I think one of the reasons that you like these designs is that they're all done by the same person, so there is some sort of continuity. In truth, with property rights, people do have the right to put up ugly buildings. And our design standards are what I would call on the loose side. So unless we want to go down that road of tightening that up, and I really don't see Canby doing that in the next decade, then it's going to have to be more of a carrot and stick approach, where we have one person who goes out, does these type of drawings, and saying, here, me, as an urban planner, as an artist, is a direction that I think these buildings can go towards. But absent the type of Sandy or Leavenworth type of direction, of us really digging into our design standards and starting to say what people can and cannot do with their buildings, it's going to have to be more like this. It's going to have to be more of us going out and doing this sort of thing, saying, here is what your building, and these people didn't have to pay for these drawings, is that right? This was a grant. And so, see, this is the sort of leadership that we can provide, is go out saying, here's what your building can look like.
And if I could add to that too, I think, thank you first of all for doing a fabulous job. And I think that it's kind of like restoring an old house or an old car. I think those renderings are very tasteful, and my impression is they're relatively cost-effective versus doing major surgery to those structures. And they bring them up to date greatly and make them fresh and appealing, and yet I don't think that interrupts with new construction that would go on to the downtown and just add to the character, and so I'm very impressed.
Tim, one other thing. Jamie, could you forward these to the Herald? One of the things that I think you and I found when we went to the Main Street Program Conference in Detroit, and talking to the property owners and people who were redeveloping, is that the two most powerful things are hope and inspiration. And in a town like Detroit that was down and out and starting to come back, there was hope and inspiration. And by putting images out here, and Ken and I were having this discussion at the break, that if you can put a picture of something, you know, a lot of times we walk past an old building and all we ever see is an old building. And there were a couple old buildings here that we walk past and think, can it ever look better? And it can. So I think if we can get this out in some general distribution, if we can get the Herald to publish these photographs or these drawings, is to have people start imagining what things can be.
To that I asked, though, do the property owners know about this project?
Oh, absolutely.
And they're full on, they would be okay with that going to the paper?
She was able to get in touch with 4 out of 5 property owners. And, for example, the Bettis Building, when she met with them, not only were they excited about possibly seeing what her facade rendering could look like, but then also followed it up with wanting information on the facade program and the revolving loan fund. And so this really can be a carrot for some of these businesses, or some of these building owners, rather. As for the one person that she wasn't able to get in touch with, at least we now have a talking point. It's not just, can we put something together about your building? Here, look at what they did. And you don't have to do it, but just as an idea for the next time you think that you might want to do something to your building, or the next time you think, I wonder what could be. And one of the things that I like about working with the historic nature of these buildings is that you're just restoring it to what it was. You know, my aunts always talk about wanting to find a youth serum because they just want to go back to what was when they were younger. You know, we actually have the ability to be able to do that with these buildings in adding some awnings, taking down some siding, really just giving it a fresh look, but it's not fresh and new, it's fresh and old. And so as far as the policy decision, if we wanted to really implement that, one of the things could be if for newer construction, if that's the way that you guys wanted to go, that we want to keep it a certain look like the cinema did. But I think that this project was kind of neat because we're not saying in 2020, it's going to look like this, and we want you to do a hovercraft. We're like, remember in 1903? I don't, but look at this picture, and your building could look like that, and it could still work for the use that you have it today. So I think that all the building owners were very excited, and we'll sit down with them. I'll sit down with them, Renata and I will, to go over this information again, because they haven't seen the final product. It just got sent to me yesterday, and provide them with the full report so that they can at least make educated decisions. Instead of saying, well, I like pink and glitter, so all of my awnings should be pink and glitter, that they can say, wow, that doesn't look like the historic nature of what that building was before. And, you know, with a little bit of more effort, that we have this information and we can take that and get awnings that match.
Excellent. Well, a couple of these buildings being 100-plus years. I hope when I'm 100 years old, somebody could give me a facelift like that, so.
You don't need it.
At 100, I might.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you so
Very
much,
good.
Jamie.
Thank you. And that concludes our formal agenda for the evening. Amanda, do you have anything else? Kim? We're all good? Well, thank you, everyone, for what I hope proves to be a great step forward in the Canby's future that's been taken tonight. And with that, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move we adjourn this meeting.
I will second.
All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Hensley, seconded by Vice Chair Hudson, that we adjourn for the evening. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Good night, Canby.
Good night.